Okay, I'm back on the YouTube buzz again. It's been an absolutely crazy couple of weeks setting up the new garage in Cork while trying to run the garage in Dungarvan. A common question I get asked, and one that I've actually, I suppose, is a topic and I suppose an area of business that I've spent a lot of time on in the last couple of weeks, is how do I stock both garages? There's two elements to it. There's finding the stock and there's funding the stock. Both of them are a bit of a challenge. So in this video, I'm going to talk you through, I suppose, the process and the operation and how I split my money and how I split my time and what my ideal stock profile is for both garages. At the moment, as of Saturday, and that's 15 days into the month, we had 67 cars sold for the month. There's approximately 160 cars in stock between both garages. There's a lot of money in, there's a lot of money out, there's a lot of moving parts. So in this video, I'm going to talk you through the finding and the funding of my stock. So as I was saying, I have approximately 160 cars physically on the ground between both garages. There is around 60, 65 I think in Cork, and there's about 70 advertised in Dungarvan, but there's another 30 cars that have just come in from Japan that are in Dungarvan that haven't been advertised yet, they haven't been VRT pre-inspected yet. All in all, I think approximately 2.5 million in stock between both garages, and there's probably close to €1 million of stock en route as well. So a big question I suppose people would ask is, how are you funding that? And it's quite a complicated procedure. A lot of it is owned, or a lot of it is funded by accumulated profits that I've built up since 2019, and I have credit lines as well. But again, that's not as easy as you might think as well. Approximately half my cars that we generally stock in both garages, and that's what we aim for as well. Half the cars are Japanese imports, and the rest are cars that I buy usually on the Irish market. There's a couple I get from Northern Ireland, I've one or two contacts up there, but the vast majority are either Japanese imports or cars that we get in Ireland. Of the cars that we get in Ireland, of which they're about 50% of our stock, I would say approximately 20-25% are cars that we buy on the private market directly from customers. Sometimes we just ring people off done deal. Other times then we might get a text on TikTok or LinkedIn, or we get a walk-in customer that wants to sell us their car, or like a lot of referrals over the years that I've had. So many people I've bought cars off over the years, then they know someone in work that wants to sell their car, and it kind of goes like that. About 10-15% of the cars we buy as well are cars we buy in the trade in Ireland. So that means we get them from other garages. And again, around the same amount again are trade-ins. So it's always lovely if you sell, let's say, a 2022 car and get a nice 2018 or 19 in as a trade-in. So you get the benefit of selling a car and also getting a lovely trade-in that you can make a few quid off as well. So that's the ideal scenario. So that's generally the breakdown, the split. Some months if we get a load of Japanese import cars in, sometimes it can go above 50%. In terms of what we stock and what we sell, but I try keep it at 50% Jap imports and no more than that. And the reason for that is I do not want to be ever overly reliant, especially when I have a big operation now at the moment. I don't want to be over reliant on any source of cars. I remember after Brexit, back in 2021 I think it was, so many garages were just so reliant on the UK imports. And then when Brexit happened and the taxes went up, they were just completely thrown off. Now again, the UK market is stabilized a bit again. Maybe that's a topic for another video. But I don't want to be overly exposed. Again, with anything, things can change, taxes can change, the yen amount can change, so many things can change. So I try to keep it 50%, no more. They're great at the moment, but it's always great to have a lot of contacts and a lot of options on the Irish market too. Now, while we're on the topic of the finding element of it, so the finding is getting the cards physically into stock. I think what we do quite well in Dungarvan and Cork, and John is on board with this way of thinking as well, is that we spend so much time on the buying. And I think a lot of garages do not spend enough time on buying stock. They just have a scattergun approach to getting cars into stock, and then they're wondering why they're not busy. If you focus a lot of your time on the buying, including buying your imports and getting the right specs and the right prices and the right mileage, and getting the right cars in Ireland. If you spend a lot of time on the buying, the sales kind of takes care of itself because you're getting the right cars into stock that you can sell for the right prices with a decent margin in it. So buying is absolutely everything, and any garage out there that doesn't spend a lot of their time, I'd argue you'd spend nearly as much of your time on buying as you do selling, 100%, and I certainly do. In my area of business, I've obviously got a good few different salesmen in both garages. And my role as business owner often involves a lot of the buying, and I actually love that area of the business. But buying is super important, and it's a real core part of our business here into how we get good numbers of sales. In terms of the finding stock as well, again, we're very new into the garage in Cork, so I'm not really fully sure what the split is going to be and what is going to sell better in each place, because there will be a little, there will be kind of different variances. What I have noticed so far is that some higher end cars, if we can get them, or as soon as we can get them, are going to sell really well in Cork. Like I mentioned on a few TikToks of a BMW X5 that I have coming into stock later this week, and I've already a lot of people teed up for that. I have an XC90 coming in soon that we've 1 or 2 people to ring when that comes in. We didn't get those kind of customers much in Dungarvan. Maybe there's more money in Cork. Maybe it's the big showroom. I'm not really sure. Diesel kind of in Dungarvan, what goes well is kind of diesel saloon cars. I suppose kind of more rural country people do like diesel. The petrol cars and the hybrids, for example, sell well here, but they probably do a little bit better in Cork again. I'll give you one example of a car that we couldn't sell here, but is absolutely flying at the door in Cork. Toyota CHRs. We've often had 5, 6 of them in stock here in Dungarvan, and they weren't selling at all. And since we opened 2 weeks ago in Cork, we've sold 4 of them, including a couple that we had in Dungarvan for a couple of months and not selling. So it'll be interesting to see what sells well in Dungarvan, what sells well in Cork, and I suppose mixing up the stock to suit each one. Petrol autos will particularly sell well in Cork. Diesel autos will probably sell even better in Dungarvan. So I suppose it's all about analysing the stock that you have and seeing what best fits both garages. And that's part of the business I actually really love doing as well. I love that kind of thing, the behind the scenes stuff, the putting cars here, the buying cars here. Oh, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to fund this? I'm going to put this here, that there. That'll sell well there. That should make this money here. It probably have a lot of people's heads spinning, but I actually love that area of the business. What we're getting in Cork as well a lot is people looking for us to sell their car on their behalf. This is called sale or return. So basically, some person might have maybe a higher end car, maybe a kind of a sporty car, something like that, and that they have at home. Maybe they've bought a new car, but they still have this one, and they're happy for us to take their car and only pay for it when it sells. This is handy so you don't have to obviously pay for it up front, and it also it removes a lot of the risk involved in it as well. Sometimes for something that's a bit you're not really sure on the value and the customer wants big money, it's kind of risk-free for both parties, as you can try and advertise it at a higher price that the customer wants for the car for a month or two, and then you might reassess the situation after a month or two after it's not selling without any loss to us. So it kind of sometimes gets a good price for the customer and often a lower risk for the dealer as well. So we're getting a bit of that. I never really did that much in never really did that huge pile in Dungarvan, but we're doing a little bit in Cork. And half the reason we're actually doing it in Cork, one, I suppose we're getting offered those cars because we have a nice setup and that lends itself well to nicer cars. But also from a financial point of view as well, with both carriages in place now, and this is going to bring me into my funding element of it as well, I have to be really clever with money and there's so much cars going out and coming in and everything like that, and I don't have infinite money, as you can imagine, and with the level of interest we have and the level of stock I have to keep buying, you have to think of different ways in order to get more cars in with less kind of financial outlay. A lot of people, and a few people have said it to me, and they're kind of saying half behind my back. I was like, oh, I'd say they're financed up to their gills now in the new garage in Cork and these big loans and like that. I've actually 0 loans in Cork, and half the reason for that is it's very difficult actually to get loans for a new business. It's much easier, for example, to get loans and credit lines in my garage in Dungarvan. It's got several years audited for financial statements and accounts, and a good track record in business. But when you're trying to get funding through a new business, and Cork is a new business, and it's also a new business with a new director, as John owns half the business in Cork, it's very difficult to get credit lines and funding in place. So everything that I have in Cork at the moment is owned outright. It's paid for by the money myself and John put into the business, and it's some of the cars that are in Cork at the moment are owned by my Dungarvan garage. So you can imagine with the amount of cars you have down there that are all owned outright, it's a lot of it can be a lot of financial I wouldn't say pressure, it's all kind of manageable, but you just have to be really sharp with the money that you're spending and the money that you're using. To help pay for that then, I'm funding some of the cars that I have on the ground in Dungarvan. This is something I was doing all along, but again, it just makes the whole process work a bit better. Thankfully, I've had 6.5 years of really good trading in business, and the accumulated profits in Dungarvan is quite strong. So this helps lighten the financial load, I guess. Also, you have to remember is a lot of the cars that we have coming in from Japan, these are all paid for outright as well. You can't really get good funding options for the cars that are en route from Japan. Now I know there's 1 or 2 people that are giving options before you start messaging me and calling me saying that there isn't an option. I know there is, but I don't like the terms of the options and the interest rates and all that for the options of the funding cars that are en route. So I'd rather keep my debt to a minimum and grow the business in Cork and Dungarvan as organically as possible. With the Japanese imports, as I was saying, is a lot of the cars that all the cars that I'm bringing in from Japan are still coming in via Paul O'Connor cars in Dungarvan. When they land into Dungarvan, then I kind of split them up between Dungarvan and Cork. At the moment, we're bringing in between 50 and 70 cars a month, which is obviously a lot of cars. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of money, but it's needed. I do think we're going to be selling approximately 100 to 120 cars per month in the new year between both garages. So again, do the maths. I said 50% of the cars Japanese import, so that's how many cars I need to import per month. All the cars are being imported by Dungarvan and then split between Cork and Dungarvan. The reason we're doing this is because, as I was saying, Dungarvan can fund some of the cars that I have on the ground here in Dungarvan. And it makes sense because I had all the import operations and like the TAN number and everything like that from revenue to set up with the Dungarvan garage. Then they're registered in Dungarvan to the Cork garage and sent down there. So that's how we're operating at the moment. It's a bit of a clunky, a lot of paperwork of a procedure. So all the cars we're sending down to Cork are already registered on Irish plates. And I was doing that out of necessity at the start, but since we started doing it, we realised it's actually a really good thing, as you can book NCTs for them straight away, customers can get insured on them straight away, and we're taxing them for 3 months for customers as well, a lot of the time. So it's in order to get the logbook and get the procedures in place like that. So it makes the whole thing, it's actually registering the cars before they're sold, it actually does make a lot of sense. So most of them are registered on a 171 or 181 Cork plate. So that's how we're doing things at the moment. If this whole thing is making your head spin, trust me, my head spins a lot with this as well. But you know what? That's all part of the journey of it. I think when we get a little extra credit line and a bit more funding in place in Cork, it will make things a lot easier, a lot more streamlined. We're hoping to get that set up in the new year once you have a couple of months bank statements. But me and John both agree we're hoping to grow the place as organically as possible. We have absolutely zero interest in leveraged and massive debt or anything like that. And we're just being as cute and as sensible with money as possible. And as I have been doing in Dungarvan since 2019, grow the business organically so you're not too exposed in case things do slow down, and they will at some stage. Things are really good at the moment, but they won't be fantastic and rosy forever, and we're well aware of that. So that is the general gist of how I'm funding and finding my cars. It's an ever-changing procedure. It changes the whole time. I do think when we're really set up, I think in Cork, we'll have probably a slightly higher end stock profile just because it's in Cork and because it's a nice unit, but we'll still have cheaper cars there too. And I think the cars in the 15 to 30, 35 grand price range, which are bread and butter in Dungarvan, and we have a load of customers that have bought those kind of cars off of us over the years, that will remain the bread and butter and the main stock in Dungarvan. We'll still have some of that in Cork, but I think we'll have a few X5s, we'll have a few kind of 50, 60 grand cars more so than in Dungarvan. And I think once we have both them set up and we've both the garages running with full staff members, because we haven't in Cork for the last couple of weeks, full staff members and full stock, I think next year and even 2027 onwards, I think I'll have two businesses that'll be absolutely flying it, all going to plan. I hope that was informative, and if there's any topic you'd like to see me cover in more detail on any video, I'd be happy to do so. I'm very transparent with people, and I think that's what people seem to like to hear anyway. They don't want any sales bullshit from car salesmen. They've heard enough of it over the years. Listen, thank you very much for watching, and if you did like it, please like and subscribe.